They said it started with a hard drive. Then they said it was a leak. Now they're saying it's footage the feds never wanted the public to see. Late last night, the internet erupted when whispers turned into headlines and headlines turned into panic. Jay-Z, music royalty, business mogul, untouchable icon, was suddenly at the center of a storm no one saw coming. Sources claimed federal investigators quietly unsealed a sealed cache of so-called Epstein file footage, and buried deep inside it was a name no one expected to hear out loud. Fans are shocked, insiders are scrambling, and according to multiple reports, Jay-Z has gone completely off the grid. Phones unanswered, private jets grounded, security teams allegedly dismissed. One former associate was overheard saying, "He knew this day might come, but not like this." Emotions ran high as speculation spread faster than facts, with social media exploding into chaos. Was this a misunderstanding, a setup, or the beginning of something much darker? What really has people shaken isn't just the footage, it's the reaction. Longtime friends reportedly turning silent, industry allies suddenly unavailable for comment. And at the center of it all, a powerful man who built an empire on control now facing the one thing money can't buy: answers. Behind closed doors, tensions are said to be boiling over. Heated arguments, urgent calls in the middle of the night. One insider claims a family meeting ended with slammed doors and raised voices, leaving everyone involved deeply divided. Meanwhile, fans are replaying old interviews, searching lyrics for clues, and asking the question no one wants to ask: how much did he really know? Because if the footage is real, and if the feds are done hiding it, this isn't just another celebrity scandal. This could be the unraveling of a legend. The silence was louder than any headline. Within hours of the footage rumors spreading, phones across the industry started buzzing with the same two words whispered again and again: feds moving. Insiders claimed black subs were seen outside properties connected to old business partners, while private attorneys were suddenly unreachable. Jay-Z, usually calculated and visible, was nowhere to be found. No studio sightings, no public appearances, no late-night tweets to calm the storm. Fans are shocked not just by the allegations, but by the disappearance itself. One longtime fan posted, "I've followed him for 20 years. He never hides. Something is wrong." According to alleged sources close to the investigation, the footage didn't surface accidentally. It was said to be part of a sealed archive linked to the Epstein case, material that never made it into public court records. What made this different, insiders claim, was not just names but moving images. Grainy security-style video, timestamps, audio fragments, moments that, if taken at face value, raised disturbing questions. And when one clip allegedly showed a figure resembling Jay-Z entering a private room during a high-profile event years ago, panic spread behind the scenes. Emotions ran high inside his inner circle. A former associate, speaking anonymously, claimed that emergency meetings were held in multiple locations at once. Everyone was talking at the same time. Lawyers yelling over each other. People asking who leaked it. Nobody trusted anybody, the source said. Accusations flew across the room, with one manager allegedly shouting, "We warned you about those connections." Another voice reportedly snapped back, "You don't get to rewrite history now." Family dynamics only made things worse. Those close to the situation say the family was left divided almost instantly. One camp believed this was a coordinated takedown, a targeted attack against a powerful figure who had made enemies over decades. The other camp feared something far more dangerous, that the footage was real enough to raise serious legal questions. Heated arguments reportedly spilled into late-night phone calls, with voices cracking and tempers flaring. One insider described a moment of silence during a call where someone quietly asked, "If they have more, what happens to us?" Outside the inner circle, the reaction was explosive. Fans dissected old interviews, pausing videos frame by frame, reading between the lines of lyrics released years ago. Comments flooded social media saying things like, "This hits different now," and "We missed the signs." Others rushed to his defense, accusing the media of manufacturing outrage. "They want to destroy him," one fan wrote. "This is a setup." But even among supporters, doubt crept in. Because the footage, allegedly, didn't come from tabloids. It came from federal evidence lockers. Behind closed doors, strategy meetings turned dark. Legal teams reportedly debated whether staying hidden was the smartest move or the worst possible one. One lawyer allegedly slammed a folder shut and said, "Running makes you look guilty." Another fired back, "Talking too soon could end everything." The tension in the room was described as unbearable. Every decision felt like a trap. Every silence felt like an admission. Then came the betrayal. According to sources, one former confidant broke ranks. Not publicly, but quietly. Cooperating. Handing over context, names, timelines. When word of this reached the inner circle, the reaction was explosive. "He sold us out," someone allegedly yelled. Another voice responded, "No, he saved himself." Emotions ran high as trust collapsed in real time. Friendships built over decades reportedly ended in a single night. As dawn broke, the reality became impossible to ignore. This wasn't just about reputation anymore. It was about survival. The alleged footage had opened a door that couldn't be closed, and every step forward felt like walking deeper into uncertainty. Fans were left refreshing their feeds, waiting for a statement that never came. And somewhere, according to whispers growing louder by the hour, Jay-Z was making moves in silence, preparing for a battle that could redefine his legacy forever. And as those whispers grew louder, the narrative quietly shifted from certainty to speculation, from accusation to a dangerous game of what if. Insiders began stressing that nothing had been proven, that the footage was being interpreted through fear and rumor rather than verified fact. Still, the damage was already spreading. The fictional mogul at the center of it all, known in industry circles as Crown Jay, had become a symbol of everything people loved and feared about power. Some called him untouchable, others said no one ever really is. Within his circle, paranoia took over. Every conversation felt recorded, every pause felt suspicious. One longtime advisor reportedly leaned back in his chair and muttered, "This is how legends fall." Not with handcuffs, with doubt. The room went quiet, nobody disagreed. Crown Jay's silence wasn't just absence anymore. It was a strategy, or at least that's what some tried to believe. Others saw it as panic. Emotions ran high as interpretations clashed, turning allies into opponents overnight. Meanwhile, the media ecosystem fed on the chaos. Commentators framed the situation as a cautionary tale, carefully using words like alleged, speculative, and unverified, but the tone told a different story. Panels debated whether fame itself created blind spots, whether wealth insulated people from consequences for too long. Fans are shocked by how quickly admiration turned into interrogation. One viral clip showed a supporter saying, "I defended him yesterday. Today I just want the truth." That sentence alone summed up the shift in public mood. Inside Crown Jay's family circle, the tension was suffocating. Relatives who once avoided public attention were suddenly dragged into conversations they never asked for. One family member allegedly broke down during a private call, saying, "We didn't sign up for this. We just wanted peace." Another responded sharply, "Peace was never part of this life." The family was left divided between those urging a public statement and those insisting silence was the only shield left. Then came the twist no one expected. A respected investigative journalist released a carefully worded segment suggesting the footage might not show what people thought it did. Lighting angles, grain distortion, misidentified figures. The report didn't clear anyone, but it cracked the certainty that had fueled the outrage. Emotions ran high all over again, this time in the opposite direction. Fans flooded comment sections asking if they had been manipulated. Critics accused the journalist of backtracking under pressure. The truth felt further away than ever. Behind the scenes, Crown Jay was reportedly watching everything unfold in real time. A source close to him claimed he replayed the coverage silently, over and over, stopping only to ask one question: who benefits from this? It wasn't denial. It was calculation. He allegedly believed this wasn't about justice or exposure, but about leverage. Old grudges resurfacing. Power struggles disguised as morality. The idea that someone wanted to break the myth, not the man. As days passed, new voices entered the conversation. Former collaborators shared vague memories, careful not to accuse but eager to distance themselves. Phrases like, "I don't really know him like that," and "we were never close," echoed across interviews. Fans noticed. The retreat felt coordinated. One commentator said, "This is the industry eating its own." Another replied, "Or protecting itself." Either way, trust eroded further. In private, Crown Jay's legal team pushed for a controlled re-entry into the public eye. A statement, a sit-down, something to reclaim the narrative. Crown Jay reportedly resisted. "Once you speak," he allegedly said, "you can't unsay anything." That hesitation frustrated some advisors who felt the vacuum was being filled with speculation. Heated arguments broke out again, voices raised, doors closed hard enough to rattle walls. Nobody agreed on what the right move was, only that time was no longer neutral. Then, another shock. An anonymous source leaked a memo suggesting the so-called federal interest was being exaggerated, that no active case existed, only a review of archived materials. It didn't end the drama, but it reframed it. Suddenly the story wasn't about imminent arrest, but about reputation warfare. Fans are shocked at how quickly fear had escalated into certainty without confirmation. Some felt embarrassed, others felt angrier than before. Through it all, Crown Jay remained unseen. No photos, no sightings, just the growing legend of a man standing still while the world spun around him. Supporters called it discipline, critics called it arrogance, neutral observers called it fascinating. Because in this speculative thriller of power and perception, the line between guilt and myth blurred until almost invisible. As the noise peaked, one thing became clear: even if nothing concrete ever emerged, nothing would go back to the way it was. The illusion of invincibility had cracked. Friendships had shifted, loyalties had been tested, and somewhere in the middle of the storm, Crown J was preparing his next move, knowing that whether he spoke or stayed silent, the story would continue without him. The waiting became unbearable. Every hour without a statement felt like another verdict delivered by silence. Insiders claimed Crown J had retreated to a secure location far from cameras, surrounded by a skeleton crew of people he trusted with his life but not necessarily with his peace. Nights blurred into mornings as plans were drafted and redrafted, then torn apart. One advisor allegedly said, "We're not fighting facts anymore. We're fighting perception," and perception, once poisoned, was nearly impossible to cure. Outside, the public mood fractured even further. Fans split into camps, arguing across timelines like family members at a holiday dinner gone wrong. One side insisted this was all smoke, a calculated attempt to weaken a powerful figure who had outgrown the system. The other side demanded accountability, saying power without scrutiny was exactly how darkness thrived. Emotions ran high as both sides accused the other of blindness. Former unity turned into hostility, and the comment sections became battlegrounds. Then came another unexpected development. A former security contractor, long retired and previously unknown to the public, released a cryptic video. He never named Crown J, never showed proof, but his words were enough to reignite everything. "I've seen how narratives are built," he said calmly. "And I've seen how footage can lie without lying." The video ended abruptly. Fans are shocked by how such a vague statement could feel so heavy. Was it a warning? A defense? Or a reminder that truth and evidence were not the same thing? Inside Crown J's circle, the video caused another split. Some saw it as an opening, proof that doubt could be planted in the story itself. Others feared it would only drag more people into the mess. A heated argument reportedly broke out when one strategist suggested amplifying the clip. "That's not defense," another snapped. "That's chaos." The family was left divided again, torn between fighting fire with fire or letting the flames burn out on their own. Meanwhile, old relationships resurfaced in uncomfortable ways. People Crown J hadn't spoken to in years suddenly reached out, some offering support, others fishing for information. A former collaborator allegedly sent a message that read, "If you ever need someone to speak for you, I owe you." Crown J never replied. According to sources, he stared at the message for a long time before locking his phone and walking away. Trust, once broken, didn't regenerate on command. As the story stretched into its second week, the industry itself began to feel exposed. Executives canceled appearances. Charities quietly removed names from boards. Invitations were rescinded without explanation. Nobody wanted to be standing too close if the ground collapsed. One anonymous executive admitted, "This isn't about him anymore. It's about us." That confession alone hinted at how deep the anxiety ran. Then came the most dramatic twist yet. A leaked audio clip surfaced, allegedly from a private conversation between two unnamed power brokers discussing how useful the situation was. No crimes were mentioned, no proof offered, but the implication was chilling. Someone was benefiting. Someone always did. Fans are shocked by how quickly outrage shifted direction again, from the accused to the unseen hands shaping the narrative. Conspiracy theories flourished, some wild, some uncomfortably plausible. Through it all, Crown J's silence transformed from absence into presence. It loomed over every discussion, every broadcast. People projected their fears and hopes onto it. To some, it meant guilt. To others, restraint. One cultural commentator summed it up bluntly, "We're watching a man become a symbol against his will. And symbols, once created, rarely get a say in how they're used." Behind closed doors, Crown J finally made a decision. Not about what to say, but about when. Sources claimed he believed timing mattered more than content. Speak too early, and you legitimize rumors. Speak too late, and you confirm them by default. It was a razor-thin line, and everyone around him felt the weight of it. Sleepless nights returned. Voices grew hoarse from arguing in circles. No solution felt clean. As the pressure peaked, something unexpected happened within the fanbase. A quiet fatigue set in. People admitted they were tired of guessing, tired of outrage without resolution. "Either show us something real or let us breathe," one post read, gaining thousands of likes. The demand wasn't for drama anymore. It was for clarity. And that shift, subtle but powerful, changed the temperature of the conversation. Still, the damage lingered. Even if nothing more emerged, the myth of certainty had been shattered. Crown J was no longer just an untouchable icon or a villain in waiting. He was a question mark. And questions have a way of living longer than answers. As the world waited for his next move, one thing was clear to everyone watching. This story was no longer about footage or files or whispers. It was about how quickly belief could turn, how fragile legacy really was, and how silence, once chosen, became a force of its own. And just when it seemed like the storm might exhaust itself, a new current pulled everything back into chaos. Whispers surfaced that Crown J's silence was not just strategic but necessary, that unseen negotiations were happening far from cameras and commentators. According to a source claiming proximity to the situation, intermediaries were moving quietly, arranging conversations that never left paper trails. "This isn't about clearing his name," the source said. "It's about preventing a bigger war." That single line sent shockwaves through those still watching closely. Inside the inner circle, fear gave way to something colder. Calculation. Crown J allegedly gathered a small group late one night, the room dim, phones left outside. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm but heavy. "Everyone wants a confession or a denial," he reportedly said. "What they don't understand is that both can be weapons." Nobody interrupted. Everyone listened. Emotions ran high, but they were buried beneath survival instinct. Meanwhile, the public conversation twisted again. A prominent cultural figure released a long monologue questioning why attention fixated on one man while systems remained untouched. "We personalize scandals because systems are harder to fight," the figure said. Fans are shocked by how quickly empathy re-entered the chat, not necessarily for Crown J, but for the idea that truth was being flattened into spectacle. Still, critics pushed back, accusing anyone urging nuance of deflection. The cycle repeated: outrage, reflection, outrage again. Then came another fracture inside the family. A relative, previously silent, was rumored to be considering a solo statement. The idea alone caused panic. "You don't freelance during a fire," one advisor allegedly snapped. Others argued that controlled honesty might humanize the situation. The family was left divided yet again, old wounds reopening as blame crept into conversations. Who introduced who? Who ignored which warning? Who benefited while others paid the cost? As days turned into weeks, Crown J's absence became its own myth. False sightings circulated. Blurred photos sparked debates. One image went viral before being debunked within hours, but the damage was done. People wanted closure, even if it was manufactured. One fan wrote, "I don't even care what's true anymore. I just want this to end." That exhaustion spread faster than outrage ever had. Behind the scenes, industry power players repositioned themselves. Partnerships were quietly paused, not cancelled. Deals were under review. Language became deliberately vague. Nobody wanted to be on record making a definitive move. One executive admitted anonymously, "We're waiting to see which version of reality wins." That statement revealed more than intended. Truth was no longer singular. It was competitive. Another twist emerged when a respected legal analyst publicly questioned the legality of releasing any footage tied to sealed archives. The segment didn't defend Crown J, but it challenged the premise of the outrage. If the material itself was compromised, what did that mean for everything built on top of it? Emotions ran high again, this time with confusion. Fans are shocked by how fragile the foundation of the entire narrative suddenly felt. Inside his refuge, Crown J reportedly watched the segment in silence. After it ended, he finally reacted. Not with relief, but with resolve. "They don't need me to be guilty," he allegedly said. "They just need me to be uncertain." That insight reframed everything for him. The battle was not against accusations, but against ambiguity itself. And ambiguity thrived in silence. Preparations began quietly, not for a press conference but for a controlled appearance. Something unscripted enough to feel real, but contained enough to avoid traps. Advisors debated platforms endlessly. Traditional media felt hostile. Social media felt uncontrollable. The solution, according to sources, was intimate scale. Small room, limited audience, no edits, just presence. The idea terrified everyone involved, including Crown J himself. As plans formed, another betrayal surfaced. A figure once considered neutral released a tell-all style essay, heavy on emotion, light on facts. The piece described vibes, impressions, discomforts. Nothing actionable, but devastating in tone. Fans are shocked by how powerfully feelings alone could influence belief. Critics called it manipulative. Supporters called it brave. Crown J reportedly read it once, then closed his laptop without a word. The pressure finally reached a breaking point. During a late-night meeting, voices rose higher than they had in weeks. One advisor accused another of self-preservation. Another accused Crown J of waiting too long. The room erupted. Then Crown J stood up. The noise stopped instantly. "This ends when I decide it ends," he said quietly. Not angry, not defensive. Final. Nobody argued after that. Outside, the cultural temperature shifted again. New stories pushed the saga down timelines. Attention drifted, but the stain remained. Even in silence, Crown J's name now carried an asterisk. Fans argued about whether that was fair or inevitable. "Legacy is fragile," one commentator said, "and fame accelerates decay." The phrase stuck. As the date for his reappearance approached, anxiety returned to everyone involved. There was no guarantee it would work. No assurance it wouldn't backfire. But standing still was no longer an option. Silence had done all it could do. Now it was time to speak, not to prove innocence or guilt, but to reclaim authorship of the story. And somewhere between preparation and fear, Crown J accepted a truth he had avoided for years. Control was never permanent, it was borrowed, and now, for the first time, he would have to face the world not as an icon or a myth, but as a man stepping into a room where everyone had already decided who they thought he was. The day arrived without announcement. No countdown, no teaser, just a quiet confirmation passed through a handful of trusted channels that Crown J would be seen, not heard, before he would be quoted. The location was deliberately ordinary, almost defiant in its simplicity. No stage lights, no banners, just a room, some chairs, and the weight of weeks of speculation hanging in the air. Those invited were warned in advance, no phones, no live updates, no leaks. Whether that promise would hold was anyone's guess. As the doors closed, the atmosphere tightened. People who had debated his fate from a distance now sat within feet of him, close enough to hear his breathing. When Crown J finally entered, the room stilled. He looked thinner, more restrained, but composed. Not smiling, not scowling, just present. The silence stretched longer than anyone expected, and in that pause, emotions ran high in ways no headline could capture. He began without preamble. No names, no denials, no accusations. He spoke about time, about how quickly narratives form when absence fills the gaps. Silence, he said evenly, is either discipline or fear, depending on who's listening. The line landed heavy. Some shifted in their seats. Others leaned forward. Fans would later argue endlessly about what it meant, but in that room, it felt less like a statement and more like a confession of exhaustion. He addressed the footage without naming it directly. Images don't carry context, he said. People do. He acknowledged mistakes in judgment, in proximity, in assuming distance from chaos meant immunity from it. But he stopped short of admitting anything concrete. The choice frustrated some listeners immediately. One attendee later whispered, "He said everything except what people wanted." Another replied, "Maybe that was the point." Outside the room, rumors were already forming about what was being said inside. Even without phones, information leaked the way it always did, imperfectly. Fragments appeared online within minutes. Misquotes, half-sentences, tones inferred. Fans are shocked by how quickly a controlled moment began slipping out of control again. Some praised his calm, others accused him of dodging. The divide hardened instead of healing. Inside, Crown J shifted from defense to reflection. He spoke about legacy, not as something earned once, but as something constantly renegotiated. People think legacy is what you leave behind, he said, but most days, it's what survives you. That line struck deeper than expected. Even critics admitted later it felt uncomfortably honest. The family was left divided in their reactions. Some felt relief, others feared it wasn't enough. Questions followed, carefully screened but still sharp. One attendee asked whether he believed power insulated people from accountability. Crown J didn't hesitate. Power insulates people from discomfort, he replied. Not from consequences. Those just arrive later. Emotions ran high again. Some heard accountability. Others heard deflection. Interpretation became the new battleground. After less than an hour, it ended. No grand finale. No plea. Crown J stood, nodded once, and left the same way he entered. The room exhaled collectively. Outside, the waiting world surged back into motion. Think pieces dropped instantly. Clips circulated without footage. Analysts argued over tone instead of content. Fans are shocked by how little clarity emerged from so much anticipation. Within his circle, reactions were mixed. Some advisors believed the appearance had humanized him, shifted the energy from accusation to ambiguity. Others warned ambiguity was exactly what critics would weaponize next. Heated arguments resumed almost immediately. "You gave them poetry," one strategist said. "They wanted answers." Another countered, "Answers age. Presence doesn't." The family gathered privately that night, tension thick but quieter than before. The shouting of earlier weeks was gone, replaced by something heavier. Acceptance, maybe. One relative admitted, "Even if this passes, we're changed." Nobody disagreed. Trust had been tested too publicly to snap back into place. Some bonds tightened, others loosened permanently. Over the next days, the story evolved again. Not with new allegations, but with reinterpretations. Supporters framed the appearance as dignified restraint. Critics framed it as calculated vagueness. Neutral observers called it a masterclass in narrative survival. Crown J himself remained silent afterward, resisting the urge to clarify or expand. He had said what he intended to say. The rest, he seemed to believe, was out of his control. Then, slowly, the noise began to thin. Not disappear, but thin. Newer stories competed for attention. Outrage cycles moved on, but the residue stayed. Every mention of Crown J now carried context it hadn't before. An unspoken footnote. Fans are shocked by how permanence works in culture. Not with explosions, but with subtle shifts. Behind the scenes, deals cautiously resumed. Not all, not fully, but enough to signal that the industry had decided to live with uncertainty rather than fight it. One executive summed it up quietly, "Nobody won. We just adjusted." That adjustment was the real outcome. Not exoneration, not condemnation, adaptation. Crown J returned to work without announcement. Studio sessions, private meetings, no grand comeback. Those close to him said he moved differently now. Less visible, more selective. The experience had stripped something away, but it had also hardened something else. Not arrogance, awareness. He no longer believed silence alone could protect him, but he also no longer believed noise could save him. Fans continued to argue, to defend, to doubt. Emotions ran high long after the headlines faded. Some felt betrayed, others felt protective, many felt confused, and perhaps that confusion was the most honest response of all. Because the story never resolved cleanly. It simply settled into the background of culture, a reminder of how quickly certainty could form and how slowly it dissolved. In the end, Crown J didn't reclaim control of the narrative. No one ever truly does. What he reclaimed was agency. The choice of when to speak, when to stop, and when to let the world wrestle with its own conclusions. The legend survived, altered but intact. The man endured, quieter but present. And the question mark remained, hovering just enough to ensure the story would never fully end, only wait for the next moment someone decided to reopen it. And even as the public conversation thinned, the private consequences continued to unfold in slow, uncomfortable ways. Crown J learned quickly that survival did not mean restoration. Rooms he once entered without friction now carried pauses. Smiles arrived later, thinner. Handshakes lingered with calculation instead of warmth. Nobody said anything outright, but everything felt measured. Fame had always come with distance, but now it came with evaluation. Every interaction felt like a quiet audit. Inside his team, restructuring began. Not announced, not dramatic, but deliberate. Roles were reassigned. Voices that once dominated meetings were replaced with quieter strategists. One longtime advisor stepped away entirely, citing exhaustion, though everyone understood the deeper reason. Trust, once cracked, rarely fit back into its original shape. Crown J accepted this without protest. "People protect themselves," he reportedly said. "I would too." It wasn't bitterness. It was realism. The fanbase, too, evolved. Some supporters drifted away quietly, not in anger but in fatigue. Others doubled down, more loyal than ever, defending him in every corner of the internet as if proximity to belief could substitute for certainty. Emotions ran high whenever his name trended again, even for unrelated reasons. A new song snippet leaked, and instead of excitement, it sparked debate. Was it defiance? Distraction? Confession in metaphor? Nothing could simply exist anymore. Everything carried weight. Then came an unexpected shift in tone from the media. Not absolution, not attack, but analysis. Long-form pieces replaced hot takes. Commentators spoke less about guilt and more about consequence. How modern culture digests ambiguity. How power magnifies both grace and suspicion. Crown J became a case study rather than a headline. Fans are shocked by how quickly a person can turn into a symbol, and how slowly that symbol lets go. Privately, Crown J wrestled with resentment he rarely voiced. Not toward critics, but toward himself. Moments replayed in his mind, not because they proved anything, but because they represented choices. Proximity, complacency, assumption. One night, according to someone close to him, he admitted, "I thought distance was enough. I was wrong." It was the closest thing to regret he ever allowed himself to articulate. Family dynamics continued to recalibrate. Some relationships grew stronger under pressure, forged by shared defense and shared silence. Others cooled permanently, conversations polite but shallow. Holidays felt different, laughter arrived, but it carried memory. The family was left divided not by accusation, but by interpretation of what survival required. Forgiveness, it turned out, wasn't a single decision. It was a process with no deadline. Months passed. The world moved on, as it always does. New scandals replaced old ones. Outrage found fresh targets. But occasionally, something would reignite the embers. An old clip resurfaced. A lyric was re-examined. A former associate hinted at untold stories without telling them. Each time, the temperature spiked briefly, then settled. The cycle became predictable, almost ritualistic. Crown J learned to live inside it. Professionally, he adapted his output. Less spectacle, more control. Projects were smaller, sharper, less dependent on public approval. He stopped explaining himself through art, realizing interpretation was no longer his to guide. Instead, he focused on execution. Presence without performance. Those who worked with him noticed the shift immediately. "He's not chasing anything anymore," one collaborator said. "He's just building." Fans are shocked by how restraint itself became a statement. No interviews, no victory laps, no attempts at redemption arcs. Crown J didn't ask to be understood. He accepted being unresolved. That acceptance unsettled people more than denial ever had. Certainty comforts, ambiguity challenges, and he had chosen to live in the latter. Over time, even critics softened their tone, not into support but into acceptance of complexity. Absolutes faded, conversations became quieter, more conditional. "We don't really know," replaced, "we know enough." That shift mattered. It didn't clear his name, but it returned humanity to the discussion. Crown J was no longer a monster or a martyr. He was a man navigating the aftershock of proximity to chaos. Late one evening, during a rare reflective moment, Crown J was asked if he regretted staying silent so long. He paused before answering. "Silence showed me who I was without applause," he said. "That's not nothing." The response never made headlines, but those who heard it understood its weight. It wasn't justification. It was acknowledgement of transformation. As years stretched forward, the story lost urgency but gained depth. It became something people referenced rather than reacted to. A marker in cultural memory. A reminder that legacy isn't destroyed in a single moment, but reshaped through accumulation. Crown J continued forward, not untouched, but intact enough to keep moving. And in the quiet spaces between public attention, he accepted a final truth. Survival didn't mean winning the narrative. It meant living with it, carrying it, allowing it to coexist with everything that came after. The world would always decide what to remember and what to forget. His task was simpler and harder. To keep showing up, even when certainty never did. Time passed in uneven waves, and with it came a strange normalization of the unthinkable. Crown J's presence in culture no longer caused immediate eruptions, but it never returned to neutrality either. It lived in a permanent middle space, where admiration and suspicion coexisted without resolving. People learned to speak his name carefully, often prefacing opinions with qualifiers. "I still respect his work, but," or "I don't know what to believe anymore," but those pauses became part of his legacy. Within Crown J himself, something fundamental shifted. The hunger that once drove him had dulled, replaced by a quieter focus. Not peace exactly, but intention. He no longer measured success by applause or numbers. Instead, he measured it by control over his time and distance from noise. He reduced his circle further, choosing depth over loyalty tests. Conversations became shorter, more deliberate. He listened more than he spoke, and when he spoke, people leaned in. Yet the past had a way of resurfacing when least expected. An academic conference on power and media ethics cited his case as an example of narrative collapse without resolution. The mention wasn't sensational, but it reopened old debates online. Fans are shocked by how something so clinical could feel so personal. Clips from the conference circulated, stripped of nuance, reigniting arguments that had never truly ended. Crown J didn't respond. He had learned that reaction often fed the very thing it sought to quiet. Privately, he continued grappling with isolation. Not loneliness in the romantic sense, but separation from a version of himself that once felt invincible. There were moments, according to those close to him, when he mourned that version. Not because it was better, but because it was simpler. "I didn't know how loud the world was until I stopped shouting back," he once said during a closed-door conversation. The room reportedly fell silent after that. New artists sought him out cautiously, unsure how proximity might reflect on them. Some came for guidance. Others came out of curiosity. Crown J met them all with the same energy, reserved, observant, honest without being confessional. He never warned them about fame directly. Instead, he asked questions. Who are you when nobody's watching? What do you want that success can't give you? Those who couldn't answer usually didn't come back. The family dynamic continued evolving in subtle ways. Old conflicts softened into mutual understanding, even if full reconciliation never arrived. Children grew older, more aware of public narratives, asking questions that had no clean answers. Crown J didn't lie to them, but he didn't explain everything either. "The world tells stories," he said once. "Some are true, some aren't. What matters is knowing who you are when the noise fades." It was the best lesson he could offer. Years into the aftermath, a new documentary about modern celebrity culture premiered, featuring a section clearly inspired by his story. Again, no names were used, but the parallels were obvious. It framed the saga not as scandal, but as transformation through pressure. Critics debated whether it was sympathetic or critical. Fans are shocked by how distant it all felt, like watching history instead of memory. Crown J never watched it. What did change, however, was how he engaged with the future. He invested less in institutions and more in individuals. Quiet philanthropy replaced public gestures. Mentorship replaced endorsement. He no longer needed to be seen doing good, he needed to know it was done. Those choices didn't erase the past, but they redefined the present. People noticed, even if they couldn't fully articulate what had changed. Occasionally, someone would ask him if he wished things had unfolded differently. He never gave the same answer twice. Sometimes he said yes, sometimes no. Most often, he said nothing at all. Silence, once a shield, had become a language of its own. Not avoidance, but acceptance of complexity. He had learned that some questions lose power when left unanswered long enough. The culture around him matured, too, in its own uneven way. Audiences became slightly more skeptical of instant narratives, more aware of how stories were built and sold. Not enough to prevent future storms, but enough to slow them. Crown J's experience lingered as a reference point, a cautionary tale, a reminder that certainty often arrives faster than truth, and leaves later. In the end, his story didn't conclude with vindication or downfall. It settled into something quieter, harder to package. Survival without triumph, legacy without closure. He continued creating, living, adapting, carrying both what he had earned and what he could never fully shed. The world kept watching, less intensely, but more thoughtfully. And perhaps that was the final transformation. Not the restoration of his image, but the evolution of how people looked at it. Less as a symbol of perfection or corruption, and more as evidence that power, once questioned, is never experienced the same way again. Crown J accepted that reality without resentment. He had learned that control was temporary, narratives were fragile, and endurance required something deeper than approval. As the years stretched on, his name remained etched into culture, not as an answer, but as a question. One that people would revisit when the next storm arrived, when the next figure fell silent, when the next certainty formed too quickly. And in that sense, his legacy lived on, not in clarity, but in caution. And now it's on you. After everything you've just heard, the silence, the accusations, the doubts, the moments that felt too heavy to ignore, one question still hangs in the air. What do you believe really happened? Was this the slow unraveling of a powerful figure, or a warning about how quickly narratives can turn into verdicts before the truth ever arrives? Fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and the lines between fact, fear, and perception blurred in ways that should make all of us pause. This story didn't give you easy answers on purpose. Real drama never does. It leaves you unsettled, questioning motives, questioning timing, questioning who benefits when chaos takes over. And that's where your voice matters. Drop a comment right now and tell us what stood out to you the most. Was it the silence? The reactions? The way loyalty shifted when pressure hit? Or do you think there's still a bigger twist waiting to surface? If you made it this far, you already know this isn't just entertainment. It's a reminder of how power, fame, and perception collide when the spotlight turns harsh. So don't just watch and move on. Engage, debate, challenge each other respectfully in the comments, because every perspective adds another layer to this story. Make sure you like this video if it kept you hooked, subscribe to the channel if you want more deep, dramatic breakdowns like this, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Because stories like this don't really end. They evolve, and the next chapter is always closer than it seems. This is your space now. Say what everyone else is afraid to say. We'll be reading.